Ladies and gentlemen, peers, teachers, parents, family and friends, I'd like to begin this morning's proceedings by sharing with you a story of inspiration, a story of courage, a story of resiliency, and ultimately a story that embodies the struggles of humanity. The story begins with a youth who faced great discrimination growing up in the windy Chicago streets. I am speaking of a boy who, against seemingly insurmountable odds, rose above his perceived destiny. Contrary to all sense and reason, this young boy grew into a proud and active community organizer. This one individual brought a nation together to believe, yes, we can. Which brings us to this very moment, where that boy is standing before you, delivering the valedictorian address. You can't possibly imagine how hard it is being an upper-middle-class Caucasian with a mother who still buys me clothes, high-speed internet, and nothing but opportunity in this world. Okay, maybe I lied a little bit. I still use dial-up. However, you might be wondering, why am I standing before you delivering this speech? And I really think it comes down to one word. Webster's dictionary defines toady as to act in a way that is obedient or attentive to an excessive or servile degree. And no word better sums up my time at Grant Park. Toadying is the sole reason that I stand before you today, and what an honor it is. I feel that my experience in this fine school can best be described as meek, lanky sobriety. I've now spent 6 years proudly avoiding eye contact with intimidating students, making awkward self-deprecating jokes to girls, and throwing up into garbage cans after smelling beer. A lot has changed over the past 6 years. Before I entered Grant Park as a 7th grader, I believed it was a cornucopia of jocks, drugs, bullies, and girls who didn't want to talk to me, and now... The differences are subtle. Over the years, the cliques of middle school have dissolved to form an amorphous blob of friendships. Over the years, we've formed close bonds with our teachers. Over the years, we've learned a little and laughed a lot. I'm sure many of the parents in the audience today have asked their students, or their kids, what did you learn at school today? Only to receive the one-word answer, nothing. And while this is true, I thought it would be beneficial to share with you the timeline of a typical class at Grant Park High School. 8:55, the bell rings signaling the start of class. 9 o'clock, O Canada plays on the intercom. 9:05, the teacher begins to lecture. 9:20, the students begin to arrive. 9:45, at this point Mr. Rowan's medication has worn off, and he can be seen wandering from class to class, creating a disturbance and usually initiating a lockdown until one of his angry colleagues chases him out, or he catches the smell of a bean burrito and leaves of his own free will. I'd like to thank Yale for that one. But it's not just Mr. Rowan that holds a place in our hearts. It's all of the teachers at this school that have made our experience such a significant part of our childhood. I'd like to take a moment to just thank a few of the teachers that have made this experience so amazing. Mr. Timmerman and his infamous whistling across the hallways, which always brightens up our days. Miss Torsha, our biology teacher, who stabbed herself with an EpiPen during a safety demonstration. Mr. Patnode's repeated demands that Eric Wellwood locate the bees, always resulting in somebody being called a doofus. And there's something that a teacher told me in grade 7 that I don't think I'll ever forget. If you find me at home one more time, I'm calling the cops. Finally, I think we all love Tony's delightful hula hoop trolley, and I think we can include Tony in this group because he came to our class every day and he taught us something. Okay, maybe we can include him. Every single one of the teachers at the school has been preparing us for this intimidating and mysterious, quote, life after high school. Things have been winding down for several weeks, and perhaps the best way to capture the experience is with a quote. Now, this is a well-known quote, you're probably familiar with it, and it's appeared in a popular film. What is our greatest fear? Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. our greatest fear is the provincial math exam. Pause for laughter. Despite all the negative things I've mentioned in my speech, Grant Park really is a great place and has many advantages I've yet to touch on. The school is more diverse than the UN, but we get along just as well. Grant Park is the kind of school where Daniel Botan can dress up as Jesus Christ, tie himself to a makeshift cross, and only receive 8 death threats. Grant Park is the kind of school where I can purchase crack from students whose voices haven't even changed yet. Grant Park High School is the kind of school where the F word is permissibly used as punctuation, haphazardly inserted into the beginning, middle, and ending of every sentence. It stares back at us from the carvings on the desks and the graffiti on the lockers, and flies forth from the mouths of our scholars, our athletes, and our guidance counselors. I tell you about my idea to change the school's name to Fuck Park, but I didn't want to offend anybody. Grant Park is a warm environment, especially in the spring when the air conditioning is broken and the heat is still cranked to full blast. Those are the times where we really learn what we would do for a Klondike bar. Despite the heat and other adversities we've faced, this group has overcome so many challenges. We're a socially conscious group that excels on the playing field, in the classroom, and in the community. I know many of you today will go on to do great things, and when you do, I know you'll let me squeegee your car for nickels to feed my various children. I'd like to leave you today with some closing remarks. As you go on into the world as the talented, kind-hearted people that you are, in the words of Kurt Vonnegut, be careful what you pretend to be, because you are what you pretend to be. They say that nobody's older than a high school senior, and nobody's younger than a college freshman. And I think this will hold true for those of you headed to college, university, the workforce, or your parents' basement. High school is like that period of time that you spend sitting in a noisy theater waiting for the movie to start. And that movie is reality. I haven't heard good things. I only got 2 stars in the Free Press. I don't feel that I can fully express how much the school and the people in it mean to me. In the past weeks before graduation, I kept coming up with excuses to keep coming back to the school, and I know a lot of you did the same. I've developed such an intimate connection, and I think despite all of our best efforts, the years we've spent at Grant Park have been some of the most frustratingly wonderful of our lives. I'm going to cherish my diploma, and I'm going to miss each and every one of you, with the exception of Zephyrus and Jordan Stern. So, if you take anything away from today's event, let it be some cutlery, because it's really expensive in college. Thank you, and congratulations, class of 09.
Present to you the Grant Park High School class of 2009.